talk about current events and our present and our global responsibility as empowered women. The worst of times and the best of times. Okay, because I am an eternal optimist, I'm going to start with the best of times. Evidence exists to make us feel very happy, and why? Let me give you some statistics and some headlines. 2012 magazine article in Time, Women, Money, and Power. There are, in 2012 March, seismic economic and social changes. In the U.S., women have greater financial freedom and opportunities than ever before in our history. In 2009, big year, we became the majority breadwinner in the United States for the first time ever. We are the breadwinners or co-breadwinners in 2/3 of all households. Assuming present trends continue, by the next generation, more families will be supported by women than by men. Nearly 4 in 10 working wives out-earned their husbands. And that's an increase of 50% from only 20 years ago. Okay, 20 years ago may sound like a long time, but guys, I'd already graduated from Rice I graduated 25 years ago next year. Actually, this year. Shocking. Is that right? Yeah, shocking. So the bottom line is, look at the changes in I'll say it again. There's an increase of just 50% in just 20 years. 20 years, I'm telling you guys, it's going to fly. Women today start new businesses at twice the rate of men and comprise 43% of Americans with a gross assets of 1.5 million or more. I love some of these statistics. Women outnumber men in the attainment of college degrees by 20%, as well as graduate and law diplomas. Women today make up 60% of all college degrees and earn a majority of the doctorates and masters. And 72% of high school valedictorians in 2010, the last time it was counted, were women. That's a good thing. Now, single, childless women, ages 22 to 30, in majority of the large U.S. cities, have higher median income than male peers. Remember, single, childless. I'll come back to that. You know the story changes. Men still dominate the very top of the corporate ladder because, the reality, many women take time off to raise children, take care of their parents, be caregivers, etc., etc. But women lead or nearly gain everywhere else. Again, in their 20s, we out-earn men. 12 of the 15 fastest growing professions are dominated by women. There's such success and such synergy and such momentum that there are articles and books like The End of Women and the Rise of The End of Men and the Rise of Women. Women are already responsible for 85% of the consumer brand purchases, hold 89% of the U.S. bank accounts, 51% of all personal wealth. You get it. Women are the biggest emerging market in the history of the planet. Other good news, as you guys recently saw, the military chiefs formally rescinded the 1994 ban that restricted women from artillery, armor, and other combat roles. And I like the quotation. I thought this was realistic. Not everyone is going to be able to be a combat soldier. I personally couldn't be, would rather not. But everyone is entitled to the chance. I like that. New Hampshire, I like this. Just happened. In New Hampshire, from Congress to the U.S. Senate, to the governor, to the Speaker of the House, to the New Hampshire Supreme Court Chief Justice, all women. Ladies, we're doing well. And even though India, lots to accomplish, lots to do, horrific what transpired, but things will change. I wholeheartedly believe that. And actually, I had the luxury of spending time in India with a friend of mine from the HBS program. There is India's Next Revolution, an article that's about to come out, Pink Sari Revolution, A Tale of Women and Power in India. Absolutely not seeking to just focus on India alone. It's just an example of women taking power and control, and things are going to change. Evidence, though, exists to still make a pessimist clearly grow a bit down. Recent tragedy in India, but we know there's a call to action other places as well. You guys have heard these statistics, but hear them one more time, because It's the kind of thing that makes me think I can never suffer from inertia. If I can empower one woman, and empower, guys, just remember this, empower doesn't have to be such a fancy schmancy term, okay? Empower doesn't need to be when you are the president of this or the president of that and the head of this or the head of that. Just empower a woman to feel the confidence to make some tough decisions. The number of women that I encounter that deal with abuse, physical, emotional, or otherwise, is absolutely astronomical. So we can all empower. What are some of the statistics that make me, as I said, feel I cannot suffer from inertia? Women produce half of the world's food, but own just 1% of the farmland. We perform 66% of the world's work, but earn only 10% of the income. This is around the globe, obviously. Worldwide, at least 1 in 3 women, I basically can barely verbalize this without getting very upset, beaten, coerced into sex, abused in some way, most often by someone she knows. Between 100 and 140 million girls and women have been subject to female genital mutilation. About 1 in 7 girls in developing countries must get married before they're 15. My daughter is just turned 17. And last night, what did she tell me? We were home, the girls had studying, I was preparing for this. So we're watching the Super Bowl, not really, but we're gathering, talking to my 2 daughters. And my 17-year-old goes, Mom, do you know that ostensibly about 10,000 girls were flown in for the Super Bowl to New Orleans? Human trafficking, sex trafficking. Houston is one of the largest ports in the United States. As a matter of fact, my daughter's going to go with other kids from St. John's, a local high school, in 3rd week of February to go to a human and sex trafficking day of awareness at the Capitol. And we're going to meet with Sofia Thompson. Pulitzer Prize winners, let me say this, Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Wadoon. If you have not read Half the Sky, if nothing else, at least be aware of what it is. It's a very difficult book to get through. It is now a documentary. Let me just give you 2 or 3 tidbits from it, so if nothing else, you are smart enough to be aware that it exists. Half the Sky, turning oppression into opportunity for women worldwide. It has been called the 21st Century Manifesto for Women's Issues. And Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Wadoon, the Pulitzer Prize winning authors who actually came to Rise. I don't know if any of you guys got to hear. It was a couple of years ago. It's very funny. Pink Soon is a dear friend of mine. And Pink calls me and says, Sophia, if Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl are coming in town, please come have coffee with us and hear the lecture. I said, Pink, I just flew to New York, to the Harvard Club in New York, just to hear them. I had no idea they were coming to Rise. So I heard them twice. Half the sky, I could hear them a lot more. More girls have been killed in the last 50 years, precisely because they were girls, than men were killed in all of the wars of the 20th century. That is a 21st century call to arms, a call to help. As we celebrate the 100th anniversary of International Women's Day, the momentum is absolutely formidable. People get the fact that this can't continue, and that gender equality is unfinished business. A couple of other things I want to give you statistics, and before I turn to what we can do. A couple of other statistics. This is from the former president of the World Bank. And he says, one motivation for women's empowerment is basic fairness and decency, right? Give girls the same opportunities as men. But the second empowerment of women is smart economics. In fact, studies after studies show that investment in women lead and yield large social and economic returns. The best clue to a nation's growth and development and its potential is the status and role of women. 2 interesting things. An increase in 1 year of the average education of a nation's woman corresponds to 5 to 10% decrease in the country's child mortality rates. And this is another one that always kills me, just reminds you what to do with your money. A United Nations study showed that while women spend 90% of their income on their family, 90. So regardless of what people will try to characterize us as our frivolousness, you know, our focus on excess, and you can like the bling like the next person, the reality is we take care of others first, 90%. Men put only 30 to 40% of their earnings toward their family, and the rest to drinking, women, other women, gambling, and things like that. It's not a pretty picture. Okay, HBR. I know we're going to get optimistic, but I've got to give you a little more pessimism so it gets you really focused as you want to study and give back and deliver. Working woman at a glance. So what we know is we do fabulously well in being able to study, deliver, and do well in school. We get the grades, we get the degrees, but somewhere along the line, in the late 20s or 30s or maybe mid-30s, when things transpire, it gets more difficult. I couldn't believe this Harvard Business Review article, okay? September 2012. The title is, Will Working Mothers Take Your Company to Court? Don't worry about that aspect. Why did I care about the article? Why am I bringing it to your attention? Some of the statistics. If a woman has a child, her chances of being hired fall by 79%. I almost passed out. She is 50% as likely to be promoted as a childless woman. Her salary offer on average is reduced by $11,000. 13% of the women in the U.S. are living over the age of 75 are living in poverty, where it's only half that for men. So we absolutely need to figure out, what are we going to do? We absolutely know that a world that is good for women is good for everyone. We know that we have a stalled revolution. I don't think we can yet declare victory. If I were to talk to you and have an entire speech on my profession, but interestingly enough, my profession has a lot of symmetry with medicine, with media, with print, with accounting. I say that because one of the things I do is I'm an editor I'm one of the editors of this magazine, legal magazine, that goes to about 50,000 lawyers in Texas. And we did for the first time an entire issue on women's issues. But I created an article that not just discussed law, but others. And I went back and we tracked it. It was not just law. What do we know? The glass ceiling. I'll tell you law, but the statistics are not too different. It's the 50-15-15 conundrum. 50% of law graduates are women. Women, and they have been for the past 15 years, and yet only 15% become partners, at most. That's a best case scenario. And the number of women reaching partnership has only gained 3% even in the last 10 years, when we're ostensibly all blowing and going. The maternal wall. The penalties for compromising work and family are clear, and there's absolutely categorically a link, and a collecting link, between the large number of women lawyers taking time for their families, or mommy tracking it, or getting off the ramp, and becoming partners, or firm leaders, or anything else. There's a very difficult to stomach article in the Harvard Business Review a few years ago called the off-ramp, on-ramp. And my only unsolicited advice I would say on this subject is, if you opt to have children, or adopt, or otherwise have children in your life, really think long and hard after you've worked this hard to be at Rice University and make it and get there to opt out. There's a huge price. There's a big price to even go part-time. I never felt I had the luxury, I'll be honest with you. I actually never took off, it sounds almost ridiculous to state, but I'll state it, more than 2 weeks with any of my children. So I was back at work within 2 weeks of every single child I gave birth to. Not ideal, not standard, but you do what you feel you need to do to make it happen. Not advocating it. The 24/7 global workplace and survival. You guys know this. I mean, not many, but I lost at least one of you guys checking your iPhone or whatever gadget it is right now. We feel that we have to be absolutely, honestly, always connected. And you guys will experience this. Now it may be more for frivolity, but the reality, it will not be for frivolity. I have my BlackBerry. The last thing I do, I go to bed between 1:20 and 1:50 every night. Try to be in bed by 2 a.m. and I'm up at 6:20. By Friday, I'm exhausted. I've got to sleep 6 hours because I'm dead. My head hurts. But the reality is, what's the last thing I do before going to bed? What's the first thing I do when I get up? It's the BlackBerry. And it's a lifestyle that never truly, yes, you can take more trips and do things, but you always have to be there. Why women cannot still have it all? Let me spend a little bit of time discussing this debate. If nothing else, if you've heard it, I will summarize it for you and at least give you a few recent anecdotes that I've learned, including from getting the luxury of talking with Justice Sotomayor. Okay, to refresh your recollection, if you did not see, there was an article, and I highly recommend it. Amanda, if not, you guys probably have it and have circulated, but it's worth reading if you have not. It's the Atlantic article Professor Anne-Marie Slaughter authored about a year ago, 22 pages. Absolutely worth the read. I'll give you a synopsis. She's brilliant. By the way, it has been called a tsunami, that it caused a tsunami, a frenzy in the relentless feminist debate. Okay? What did she say to remind all of us? It's time to stop fooling yourselves, says a woman who left a position of power. Query though, she still has power. I mean, she's still a professor at Princeton. That said, the women who have managed to be both mothers and top professionals are superhuman, rich, or self-employed. If we truly believe in equality for women, here's what has to change. She says she strongly believes that a woman still can have it all. But it's not the issue of whether at the same time or not. But not today, not in the way America's economy and society are currently structured. And she walks us through a few things that I'll walk you through. Well, let me say the following that is absolutely correctly true. And I feel the same way. There's no doubt that in this dialogue we're having, it's obviously for those that are inordinately blessed. I.e., it's only a certain demographic that even has the luxury of having this dialogue. Okay? Most women, okay, are just trying to make ends meet, working a number of jobs, minimum wage, and cannot even stop to think about why it is so darn hard and why they're always exhausted. So the few of us that have the luxury of doing it, even for the short time when you're at school, and I'm not belittling how hard it is to get through Rice. It is a bear. But I get it. And you have more time now than you will. So if nothing else, be aware. Give it the dialogue and thought process that a lot of women don't have the chance to do because they're just trying to survive each day. So what are the half-truths she thinks we hold dear? It's possible if you're just committed enough. She says no. First of all, the women that have made it, they're superhuman, or they're in a different league, and it sets everyone up for failure. Let me give you some interesting points she references, because if nothing else, it will show you how hard it is to do it all. A simple measure, she says, is how many women in top positions have children compared to the male colleagues. She says, every male Supreme Court justice has a family. 2 of the 3 female justices are single with no children. The third, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, began her career only after her younger child was almost grown. The pattern, she says, is the same at the National Security Council under the first Obama administration with Condoleezza Rice, the first and only woman National Security Advisor ever, and the first one not to have a family. The line of high-level appointees in the last Obama administration was only 1 woman deep. Now, she references, you've probably seen this, and if you've not, you should. I'm not a big Googler, but I should be perhaps more, or do I watch a lot of speeches? But there were a couple of speeches by Sheryl Sandberg, the TED Talk she gave. Did any of you guys see the one on motivation? You know, that's a difficult one to stomach. I had a hard time with that. Because, let me say the following, most of the women I encounter are motivated. Yes, we may at this very moment in North America not have the motivation, quote unquote, that appears to be maybe the woman in India and in China. But guys, we're in a different state of that empowerment process and that momentum. I think it's hard to stay motivated as a female. If nothing else, guys, think back to those statistics. You bear a child, and your chances go down 79% of getting the job. Literally this morning, as I was giving my final touch-ups on my remarks, I get a text from someone I'm mentoring. She texts me and says, Sophia, I just got this incredible offer, and she needs this job offer. I just got this incredible job offer. But in order to get this much, it was over $100,000. It was a fabulous job. I have to travel 60% of the time. As you know, I have a 5-month-old and a 3-year-old. And you know, my husband will not help me enough to take the job. And it's my dream job. I just thought, this is it. This is the example. So what the professor says about Sandberg is, says, look, she's all for encouraging everyone to reach for the stars, but there are obstacles.